All right, I'd like to talk about setting up proper gaps between panels. And in this case, a gap between a hood or a bonnet and a grill. So a typical thing that I guess I see in design models or conceptual models is that a lot of parts end without a hem flange or a finished edge of part. And even if they finish with a nice edge of part, the gap isn't necessarily set up correctly for additional engineering criteria. So I just like to show an example of the complexity that could be involved if you were setting this up to some actual criteria. So the first thing I might do if I get this as an example part, let's say I go in and I'm working at a place and they say, hey, we need to set this gap up between this. Let's check this gap between the hood and the grill and be sure it's correct. Well, one thing that you might do is just go to your evaluate tools, a curve to surface deviation, and select the edge of hood and select the top of the grill, right? And just ask for what's that distance. So we're ranging from 6.17 to 6.22, so about 0.05. And then another way, so that's not perfect, but it's at least kind of about 6.2. Another thing I might do is go to my orthographic viewing, and in the front view, strictly in the front view, use my non-proportional view scaling and stretch this up so I'm overcompensating or over-exaggerating the gap just to see if they're parallel, and these look pretty parallel, so that's good. But you could do all these kinds of checks, and unless you have some criteria, you really don't know how to set this hood up correctly. And here's some basic criteria, I guess, that a person could look for. So if I go to my variant here and I look at a gap setup between a hood and the top of a grill, here's some numbers you might consider. A 1.3 millimeter radius right here. So 1.3 R leaves 0.8 for material on one side, 0.8 for material on the other side, and I don't know, some other 0.6 or something, or 0.8 in the middle for inner panel. And then I might need to compensate for overslam since this hood moves up and down and it's springed at the bottom or sprung at the bottom. Maybe we'd use 5 millimeters in Z of overslam. Some companies could use 10. Some companies could use 7.3. The number isn't specific. It's just a piece of criteria that you need to think about. Also, this is in Z. Sometimes I've gotten criteria that says in Z. Sometimes they have a pivot point at the back of the hood that they want to use. And then from there, I'm just defining the envelope of the hood's travel. Then I need to calculate in that the top of the grill isn't in X, it's up 5 degrees. So we need to find that point where the horizon plus 5 degrees, so front view plus 5 degrees hits that. And then we need to offset the hood 2.5 to get this actual point of where this grill should be tracking this hood. Typically hoods are built to a line right here, right, for a design or a concept model. So if we go back to our start view here, and I'm just going to turn off our grill for now, and the first thing we're going to do is mock up that hem flange. So I'll go to the orthographic view right here, and I'll say surface, rolled edge, fillet flange. I'll grab this edge. I want to make the other side, and I want to make it back. I want 1.3, and I want a sweep angle of 180. Build. Okay, and it makes me a surface. All right, I want to include this curve. Makes me a surface. Okay, now what I would want to do is take that surface, copy it, and paste it. I'm going to put it onto my overslam, okay, and then turn my hood outer off. Okay. Now that I have my overslam, I need to know a certain number of degrees up from X, okay? Well, I'll use the draft tool under Surface Evaluate to do that. So I'm asking for a draft angle right now. We could have positive or negative. And I'm just going to put 45 degrees in here. I'll turn the shading on so we can see both. So I put it at 45 so I can easily see which way is going uphill, okay? Because I know this draft needs to come from X and go uphill. So this is the uphill side. So it's not the positive, right? The positive here, it's the negative side. And now I'll tune that to be negative 5 degrees. Okay? I'll turn on the off the 0 degree and the show curves only, so now I just have 5 degrees. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here and I'll ask for a surface, multi-surface draft. I'll select that edge. I've got chaining turned on. I'm asking for 5 degrees. Go. Okay, so when I look at that, it doesn't really look like that's coming off uphill, right? Or tangent to that surface, because this needs to be minus, just like this was minus. So I'll put a negative value in here, and now that appears to be hitting right at the horizon of this plus 5 degrees. Now that's the top of my grill. Okay, so I'm going to take that surface set and place it on my grill, turn my overslam off, and get my grill on. Okay. Now I need to grab this overslam, copy and paste it, and move it down 0, 0, 5. That's the top of my grill. All right. So I'll put this back over here on overslam. Now this is at 5 degrees. This is simply in X. So if we go to a straight side view, all right, you can see how that's going uphill. Okay. Now the next thing we need is I need this surface offset 2.5. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Offset the hood outer 2.5, and I'm going to assign that to my grill. Untrim it. We could delete our curves on surface because we don't need them. The intersection now between this 5 degree surface and this surface is our actual edge of grill. So I'm going to take these two pieces, make them invisible. Okay. Now I'm going to do a surface intersect between these two and this guy. Okay. This is now our exact edge. So I'll do an object edit align, and I'm going to align this surface. Well, there's one thing we have to do first. We have two separate curves on surface, right? And that's no good. So what I'm going to do here is take this and make it invisible. I'll curve and duplicate those two COSs. I'm going to combine them. So this is attach, connect, and I'm just going to combine them here and there. We don't need the curves on surface. And I'll do an object edit align top of the current grill to its actual edge. So if we look over here, where we can see where we were at the center line, we've taken this grill and slid it back at the top to meet the new line. If the design personnel or the studio or whoever's in charge really like the shape of this crown, if we modified this with blending turned on, with 2 extra rows and a 0 blend factor, we now have the exact same section here as we have here. I know that because I've used blending with 0 blend factor, so it simply translates that back. Okay? And this bottom piece being already at 5 degrees open, that got translated back. So our new section for the top of our part is here, here, and there versus this templated piece. And it meets all of our criteria. Okay? That's how to properly set up a hood gap.